I started out as a rock and blues guitar player, but what I realized is that you don't choose your journey. The journey really chooses you. And after a whirlwind of head-rattling events, I was thrust into country music, and man, I'm proud to say I'm a country guitarist. Hey, Eddie here with Guitar Mastery Method, and in this video, I'm going to show you my bulletproof 3-note country guitar solo system that allows you to play tasty country guitar solos that'll knock the socks off of anybody who hears you play. You're getting a complete walkthrough on how to solo to the chords, how to inject full flavor by playing the perfect notes at the perfect time, my country hot licks that you'll be able to fit into any key, and a whole lot more. And I'll let you in on exactly how we're going to do that in just a sec. But first, you may be wondering who the hell I am. Well, I'm Eddie Haddad, and when I'm not performing country shows around the world or filling in as a session guitarist at epic recording studios, that kind of thing, I create transformational guitar lessons for Guitar Mastery Method members, guitarists just like you who know there's got to be an easier way to be a great guitarist. And because you're here with me right now, I know that you got that go-getter attitude and you're wanting more. So you got to know, with hundreds of thousands of happy guitar students around the world, it's pretty safe to say we give you the results you want. All right. So let's get into how you can start playing some tasty country solos with just 3 notes. Now, in order to find these notes, you got to become good buddies with the major scale. So we're using a major scale pattern here, and I'm not going to dive into the theory of it. All you got to know is that it's positioned here starting on the 3rd fret on the low E string, which is a G, and that makes this the G major scale. So the major scale is made up of 7 notes. And this note right here, which would be the 8th note, is what's called the octave, and it's basically a G note, just at a higher octave. And what would happen is, if we kept the scale going, the major scale would just repeat in a higher octave, but we'll get to that in a minute. So within these 7 notes, we want to find 3 very special notes in particular, and they're going to be identified as numbers. So the notes are the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th, and they are known as chord tones. Now, in order to find these notes, all we have to do is play through the scale and then count it out in order, and we'll automatically land on the notes we want pretty much until we get to 5. So starting on 1, there we go, we already found our 1. And then we have, there's 2, and then, 3 right there. And then we got 4, and then 5. There's our 5th. So we've just now found our 1, our 3, and our 5. So we have, those are our chord tones. So now that you know these chord tones, what's really important is not just knowing where they're at on the fretboard, but also how they sound. Knowing how they sound is very important because we're going to be finding more groups of these notes right now. Remember when I said how the major scale will start over once we reach the octave of G and we keep the scale going? So we're going to go ahead and do that and extend the scale that we just learned. So when we're playing the major scale, starting on this note right here, the octave of G, we're going to play a whole new major scale, which is basically the exact same notes, a higher octave. And I added 2 extra notes in there, which I'll explain why in a second. So real quick, let's go over the entire major scale pattern that we've just learned. We've added a bunch more notes, so now we can find more groups of 1st, 3rds, and 5ths. So we already know this one. So the next group would be here, starting on the 5th fret of the D string, and then the 4th fret on the G string, and then 3rd fret on the B string. Remember how I said, remember how these notes sound, right? So you may be hearing a resemblance here. These are the exact same notes, right? Just in a higher octave. Okay, and there's just 2 more since we've extended the scale pattern. We have, so this is a 1, right? A root note, which is on the 3rd fret of the high E string. And then we're gonna have the 7th fret on the E string. That's our 3rd. So we're not gonna go up to the higher 5th here. We don't need it because the licks that we're gonna be learning in a minute are just gonna be within this neighborhood here. So these are all the 3 groups of the chord tones. So a quick fun fact, you may be wondering why these are called chord tones if we're playing notes in a scale. Well, they're called chord tones because these are literally notes that make up a chord. So that being said, if we were to play the G major chord tones that we just learned over a G chord, it will always sound good 100% of the time. So every single one of those chord tones sounded just fine over a G chord, right? Because we were literally playing notes within a G chord, hence the name chord tones. I can pretty much guarantee you that any great country guitar player that you can think of highlights chord tones when they're playing their solos. Which leads me to the best part. Now we're going to learn some country licks that use every single one of these chord tones. And there are 4 of them, and they go like this. So all these licks work perfectly over a G chord. Check it out. Now you could use the major scale pattern and create licks of your own, but I wanted to give you these 4 pro level sounding licks right off the bat. So let's break down these licks, okay? Lick number 1 goes like this. So what I'm doing is I'm starting on the 1, right, G, 3rd fret of the low E string, and then I'm sliding in to the 2nd fret on the A string here. I'm sliding in from the 1st fret to the 2nd fret. This gives a little bit of flavor, you know. And notice how I'm landing on the 3rd there. So I went from the 1st to the 3rd, and guess what? We're going straight to the 5th. So all 3 chord tones right there. Okay, so then we play the 5th fret here on the A string. Then we're going to play the 2nd fret on the D string. Then we're going to end it by playing the 5th fret on the D string, which is the octave of G. All right? One more time. Lick number 2 is going to start on the 3rd fret of the G string, right? And we're going to hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret here. Okay? Now, that 4th fret on the G string there, that's a 3rd. Right? So we're going to be hammering from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret, but we're also going to be playing the 3rd fret on the B string. So we're hammering from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret on the G string here, and then playing the 3rd fret on the B string, and we're kind of repeating that pattern. Okay, so we'll do it 3 times at normal speed. And the 4th time is going to be a little bit faster because we're going to resolve the lick like this. So we have. So we do that hammer-on thing 4 times. Right? Remember, the 4th time is faster. And then we're going to do a short little blues bend on the 3rd fret of the G string with our 1st finger. So we're just doing just really quick, and we're not even really bending to any specific place. It's just a very, very quick, very short bend. All right, what's known as a blues bend. And then we're going to resolve it on the 5th fret of the D string here, which is G again. All right. So we're hammering onto the 3rd here. All right, then we're playing our 5th. All right. And then resolving on the 1. So another great use of chord tones in that lick. Lick number 3 is a lot of fun. I like this one. So we're going to start with barring the B and the high E string on the 2nd fret with our 1st finger here. Okay, we're going to slide in from the 2nd fret to the 3rd fret. Just like that. Okay, then we're going to play what's called a double stop, which is just basically 2 notes at once, right? So we're playing the 5th fret on the B string and the G string with our 3rd finger here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to play the 5th fret on the D string. So in order to make that move from barring the G and the B strings and then moving over to the D string, we just kind of have to do this slight sort of roll with our 3rd finger, okay? It's a very, very quick movement, so it doesn't have to be too complex, right? Just, okay? So just kind of practice that a little bit back and forth and just kind of get familiar with that pattern. It happens really fast, like I said, but it's meant to be done with as little actual movement as possible. Right? Then we're going to end the lick here by playing another double stop on the 3rd fret. So it's 3rd fret on the G and the B strings here. Then we're going to hammer on to the 4th fret. While we're letting that ring out, we're going to hammer on just on the G string to the 4th fret with our 2nd finger. So we're resolving on a 3rd and a 5th. So we have and a little fun fact about that lick is it's very repeatable. You can just I like to play that lick over and over again. It's a lot of fun. Or you can just play it once. Really doesn't matter. What matters is that it covers all those chord tones, right? So we slide in on the 5th and the 1, right? The 1st. And then we're going to go another 1 right here, and then we just resolve with the 5th and the 3rd. There you go. Lick number 4 is going to be a little bit challenging, but it is a classic country lick. So what we're doing here, okay, is we're sliding on the G string from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret here. And then we're catching the 3rd fret on the high E string. Okay, and then we're going to be moving it up to the 5th fret. And then catching the 5th fret on the high E string as well. Okay, and then we're moving up to the 7th fret, same shape here. See? So we have. All right, and then next we're going to be sliding from the same shape, but on the 6th fret down to the 5th fret. And we're playing both of those notes at once when we slide down from the 6th fret to the 5th fret. Now, since we're skipping strings here, right, we're playing the G and the high E string, we're skipping the B string. So if you're having trouble muting it, I'll show you what I do here. What I do, okay, because I'm picking each one of these notes. With my 2nd finger, right, which I'm using basically to play all the notes on the G string, I'll use obviously the very tip to play the actual fret, right? But then I kind of have this part of my finger gently kind of resting on the B string so that it mutes it. So I can play the note I want, right? But if my pick is going across both strings, the B string is nice and muted. So it's the same idea, right? I'm using just the second finger to mute the B string by just kind of gently letting it sort of naturally rest on the string, right? So that way I can play and not worry about letting the open B string ring out. Okay, so here's the lick again, sliding up from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret, then catching the 3rd fret on the high E string, then sliding up to the 5th fret, then to the 7th fret, and then we're going to play the 6th fret, slide down to the 5th fret, and then we're going to resolve here, which is 4th fret on the G string, 1st fret on the high E string. So we know all of these licks use chord tones, right? And we found the chord tones by using the major scale pattern, which you can totally create licks of your own using the same pattern and the same chord tones, but I wanted to give you 4 pro-level licks right off the bat. Okay, now that you got these licks and you're sounding awesome already, I'm gonna let you in on something that's gonna blow your mind, okay? But first, let me tell you this. A lot of country songs follow what's called a 1-4-5 chord progression. Now, you don't need to know what that means yet, but in the key of G, what that does mean is that you'd be playing a G, C, and a D chord in that chord progression. Stay with me here. The reason I bring this up is because a good country guitar player will know how to play over all of the chords in a chord progression. So G, C, and D in this case are all major chords. Do you remember our good buddy, the G major scale? I'm going to show you a stupidly simple way to play over multiple chords with just that exact same pattern. So, when I talked about a 1-4-5 chord progression, which in our case is going to be a G, a C, and a D chord played together. That's what's called a chord progression when you have multiple chords played together, okay? So, we're going to learn how to take that same pattern and apply it when we're playing over a C and a D chord. So, what makes this stupidly simple is that you know how we start on the major scale, right? We start with our second finger here, playing the 3rd fret, right, on the low E string. That's G, right? And then we just play the pattern, right? Because it's just our fingers going through a pattern on the fretboard, right? So we're going to take that and we're going to shift it over to C. So if G is the 3rd fret on the low E string, I'm going to go ahead and find C. There it is. That's the 8th fret on the low E string. Now, you don't need to know yet how I found that, but just know that that's where a C note is, okay? So 8th fret on the low E string is a C. So check this out. When we start on C with our second finger and we follow through with that whole major scale, that extended major scale pattern, check it out. So we just took the exact same pattern that I played here in G and just shifted it over to C. So that's all we needed to do. We took that exact same pattern and we just moved it. We didn't have to change any of the notes. We didn't have to do anything crazy. Literally, we took that same pattern and we just moved it up, okay? So that's how we would play over a C, is by using that same pattern, okay? And because there are chord tones within the pattern, we'd be able to find the chord tones for C, which are in the exact same place like they were for G, right? So now we only have one more chord in the progression that we got to find, which is D. I wonder how we're going to find it. Oh, let's just take this pattern and move it to D, right? So we found C, which is on the 8th fret of the low E string, right, when we're starting. Now D is on the 10th fret, okay? So same basic idea, right? We just played on the G pattern, right? We just played it in C. Now we do the exact same thing starting on D here. And the chord tones are in the exact same place. Pretty cool, right? I mean, all we're doing is taking the one pattern basically. So we have one pattern and we're turning it into 3 patterns basically for the price of one. So now I'm going to take these 3 patterns, I'm going to isolate their chord tones, and I'm going to play them over a chord progression of just G, C, and D. And I'm going to play the chord tones for G, C, and D over the backing track, and you'll see exactly how good it sounds. So that was just to quickly show you how playing the chord tones over each chord worked perfectly, right? I started off with the G chord tones, then I played the C chord tones, then the D chord tones, and then back to the G chord tones, but I was using the exact same finger pattern the entire time. But oh, it gets even better, because remember the 4 licks that we learned not too long ago? Well, now I'm going to show you how to turn those 4 licks into 12 licks using what I like to call the country lick multiplier. See, all the licks that we first learned revolve around the major scale, right? And they hit those chord tones that make up the 3-note country guitar solo system. You know what I'm talking about. So if we were to say, I don't know, shift that pattern up to, I don't know, maybe C, maybe we could play those exact same licks using the exact same pattern, but now we're playing them in C. I don't know, let's try them out. Sounded pretty good to me. Why don't we try moving them to D now? That worked pretty good too. So we just took 4 licks that we learned in G using the G major scale pattern, right? With those chord tones, we shifted them up to C. So now we have 4 more licks that we can use over a C chord. And then when we shifted it up to D, we got 4 even more licks that we can use over the D chord. So we basically now have 12 licks that we can play over that 1-4-5 G-C-D chord progression. Pretty cool. So what do you say we try these licks out and see how they sound over the backing track? Literally all I did was take those 4 licks, right? And I just played them in different positions over the chords as I heard them coming in the backing track, which was just an easy order of G, C, D, and then back to G before it ended. So knowing that, I just played 2 licks over G, another 2 licks over C, another 2 over D, and then finally 2 over G again. And what I tried to do was, because I had 4 lick patterns to choose from, I would just pick 2 in a different combination over each chord, so it sounded like a dedicated solo. It didn't sound repetitive, it didn't sound wrong in any way, it just really worked over every single chord. And the reason it worked out so well is because I'm using licks that highlight the chord tones, right? The 3 notes that we need in our 3-note country guitar solo system. The first, or the root, the third, and the fifth. Those 3 notes is all we need. I was just highlighting those 3 notes and all the licks I was playing, and it worked over every single chord. And if you follow that system, you will never, ever play a wrong note. And I mean, all we did was take that one major scale pattern and we just moved it to 2 other positions, and that's what allowed us to multiply 4 licks into 12. So if you apply this system to any 1-4-5 country chord progression, not only will you never play a wrong note, but you'll be able to take a simple pattern like the major scale pattern that we learned just now and make a couple licks out of it, you know, highlighting those chord tones, and then you can apply your own country lick multiplier and turn 2 licks into 6, or 3 into 9, or 4 into 12, or however many that you want to create. Literally, the options are endless. You know, when I first discovered this system, it was like, I mean, it explained everything, because I'll listen to my favorite country guitar players, you know, guys like Brad Paisley or Brent Mason or Jerry Donahue. You know, I'll listen to them and it's just disgusting how good they are. I mean, they'll play 1,000 notes a second and it just sounds so cool and melodic, not to mention using clean tone. I mean, that's nuts. But what I didn't realize at the time, and I realize now, is that all they're really doing is focusing on those 3 chord tones. They are targeting certain notes and they're making sure that whatever else they play around it always leads to one of those chord tones. And that's how every single time they play, it never sounds wrong. It's like every single note counts because it all leads to those 3 simple notes. Man, that was a lot of fun, huh? So remember, you have below this video the reference material that covers everything we went over in the 3-note country guitar solo system. It covers the tabs for the licks that we just went through, and it includes the jam track that we were playing along to. So you can take that jam track and download it to your computer, or you can put it on a disc, or you can just play it on this page right here. Now, we've covered a hell of a lot here. Quite frankly, more than you can shake a stick at, right? I wanted to make sure that you had a full understanding of my tried and true 3-note country guitar solo system, even if that means filling your head to the brim with new information. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed, don't worry, here's something I want you to do right now. Take a break. Grab a coffee, a beer. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world, right? Plus, you know you've earned it. Then you'll want to come back to this video for round 2, because I guarantee you, go through it again, you're going to pick up some crucial tips and tactics that you might have missed the first time. You do need to take a minute to let that brain of yours relax from playing guitar for just a moment though. Then when you come back and you hit play again and you watch the video again, things are going to become so much clearer. And every time you watch through the video, you're going to be picking up more and more things that you missed. Now to recap, we've covered the steps to playing tasty country guitar solos using the 3-note country guitar solo system. We've also covered the country lick multiplier using the same patterns from our country solo system. And we've also jammed those licks to a country chord backing track. Now, if you have any questions about anything we went over today, just let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. I really want to make sure that you understand everything because it's a whole lot of fun, but it's also a complete game changer when you start to incorporate it into your playing. So if you have any questions at all, just let me know in the comments below. So in closing for this lesson, I've got 2 questions for you and I'd like for you to leave the answers in the comments section below. Question 1, who's your favorite country artist? For me, it's got to be Brad Paisley. I mean, he really opened my eyes up to country because not only is he such a great songwriter, but he's a damn good guitar player. And question 2, if you had to pick one thing, what's your biggest takeaway from this lesson? Alrighty, I hope you enjoyed this lesson as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Make sure to leave me a comment below and I will see you real soon.